Which players are on the bubble? Let's talk about that.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey guys, this is Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia. It's morphin' time.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hope everybody's having a great work week. We'll get you through it right here on Locked On Spurs. What are we talking about today? We're going to be looking at the current roster as it stands, which players are going to be on that roster, more importantly, which players are on the bubble. And then we're going to get into kind of a deep dive, kind of a, just a food for thought thing. Why are there so many Wembanyama naysayers? In particular, there's a certain group of these type of naysayers that are coming out of the woodwork. We're going to be talking about that and more right here on Locked On Spurs. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast. Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, the list goes on and on. We are here every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Yeah, your team every day. So before we dive into the topics, more into that Wemby discussion here, as much as we're celebrating his arrival, and from the food in San Antonio to the hype, to the ticket sales, to the jersey sales, anything Wemby related, we're loving it. Heck, there's a hot dog named after Wemby out in San Antonio. But part of the territory is naysayers. We're going to be talking about that in a while, but that is going to be a big part of it. So consider this your PSA. Consider this your heads up. It's coming and it's already starting. You're going to have to deal with this. The Spurs are going to have to deal with this. Fans are going to be debating about this. It probably won't be the last time that we hear about a certain player or a former player or this and that, and fans and rivals are going to be talking bad about him. That's going to come with the territory. Watch when he has a couple of bad games under his belt. It's going to happen. He's just a 19-year-old kid, and they're going to come out of the woodwork. It's going to happen. As much as the price is going to come to him, there's also going to be the other side of it and those that are not totally high on him. We're going to be discussing that, but consider that a kind of a quick, little, cautionary tale before it happens. You're probably going to see it on social media. Your fans are going to be warned against those other people that are calling out Wemby. That just comes with being the generational type player. So, there's going to be great times. There's going to be bad times, and you have to take the good with the bad. So, isn't it great to have a franchise player here that has the word generational slapped on him and coming to San Antonio? Another aspect of the Wemby mania that San Antonio, the Spurs fan base, haven't dealt with. With Timmy, it really wasn't like that. Initially, they never slapped the generational label on him, nor did they with Robinson. They became that. Everybody realized that's what they were. But with Wemby, it's automatic, and comes an automatic, microscope, automatic hype, automatic questioning, automatic pump the brake mentality. So here we are, Spurs fans. Welcome to the Wemby era, the other side of the coin. All right, let's go and bring in our guest. He is Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League. And look what's back, the famous hat. Everybody loved that hat, Rudy.
Yeah, for being an unpopular guest or co-host with you, they love the hat. So I'm trying to win some points with all the fans up there.
You're not unpopular. Everybody loved that hat. What did you get it again? How did you get it?
So it was last year, I believe, the Spurs were giving out those fan boxes. And
right. Yeah.
Luckily, this hat was in there. And I don't know if anybody else that got one. If they did, I haven't seen it. So this is probably a one of a kind. Hoping it's a one of one like the card collectors that you talk to.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Again, follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League. He'll be talking about his show later on this show right here on Locked On Spurs. So, Rudy, it's time to look at the roster. Now, as of right now, it looks like the team's kind of simmered down. I think the last couple player-ish movements are probably announcement of what Sidi Sissoko's contract is going to be. And if they do give Devin the extension, that's probably not till the regular season. They always do that. They always wait till the last minute to announce something like that. But nevertheless, the roster as is built right now, seemingly ready to go ahead of training camp. Let's get rid of the obvious. Let's talk about who's on it for sure. So, your Trey Jones is going to be on it. Victor Wemby's going to be on it. Keldon, Malachi, Jeremy, Zach Collins. I think Zach Collins is the only one that we know that's going to be starting because Pop said it last season. And we got Devin Vassell, obviously. And those are kind of like the mainstays. We know they're going to be on there. Let's talk about the ones that are on the bubble. Let's start off with the first one. Blake Wesley. Is he on the Spurs roster or is he on the Austin roster?
Austin roster. He's not ready to make the leap into the rotation for the San Antonio Spurs. If he is, he's going to be probably the 12th guy. He's going to be the guy you don't give a lot of minutes to, kind of like an emergency type player, maybe the last 3 or 4 minutes in garbage time. But for me, it's going to be starting in Austin for Blake Wesley.
Yeah, I think he's going to cook in Austin a little bit longer next season. Likely going to make a lot of trips back and forth between San Antonio and Austin. Everybody's going to freak out when the Spurs announce that he's been recalled. Oh my God, he is back. He's back. Only to probably ride the bench and then get sent back to Austin the next day. That's usually how it happens. But Wesley, I thought he did okay in the summer league. He ranked high in several categories for the Spurs, from minutes to assists to steals to rebounds. But it's still like those underdeveloped aspects of his game. I think fans have an issue with, like his pace. He only goes at one pace, which is full on. His shot selection is a little, iffy, and some turnovers. Why do you think him going to Austin will benefit him long term?
So coming into the league, Blake Wesley's biggest knock was that he didn't know how to control himself. He was very, very high paced. Russell Westbrook mentality, just get to the basket and make something happen. Really uncontrollable type player. So I think going back to Austin another year, just getting him to work on his gameplay, just learn how to run the team, play calm, play cool. The NBA is a fast-paced game, but you also have to be very calm in in every situation possible, especially if you're playing point guard, which is the hardest position to play in the NBA.
Yeah, exactly. So we expect Wesley to be heading to Austin. We didn't talk about him, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I think perhaps the spot that is going to be for what would have been for Wesley is probably going to go to Julian Champagnie, right? He's on the roster, correct?
Yeah, I feel Champagnie did a lot during the summer, and he's also done a lot with the organization already to be on the roster. Spurs need shooters. That's the biggest thing I said when they drafted Wembanyama. Is a great, fantastic thing for them, but you've got to surround him with shooters. Champagnie did that in the summer league. He showed that he could shoot the 3-ball. He can score. He can get to the basket. He can score at will. That's the kind of players that you've got to surround Victor with.
Yeah, exactly. He proved himself in the summer league, proved himself to close last season. He brings something that the Spurs don't have right now, is that reliable outside shot. He was making shots like crazy during the summer league. One of the leading scorers for the Spurs. It brought a lot of passion, a lot of energy. He not only can he knock down the shot, Rudy, he can also dunk on people's faces, as we saw during the summer league with that massive dunk. I mean, it was just filthy. So for sure, Champagnie's on there. Another guy that might be on the bubble is Jabari Rice. He has a 2-way deal right now, but something tells me perhaps the Spurs may recall him a lot more often. What do you think?
I think if you're looking at between him and Blake Wesley, he would be the first call up from Austin. Of course, he's going to start the season, I believe, in Austin. He's going to be there majority of the time. If you see an injury with the San Antonio Spurs, you're probably going to see him called up. He did some really good things in summer. And as much as everybody talked about Blake Wesley doing some pretty good things in the summer league, I think Jabari, he did a lot better, in my opinion, when it comes to both players. He's the type of guy that you do want to see on the Spurs roster. He's not going to get a whole lot of minutes with the main rotation guys, but he is a guy that's probably going to get called up from Austin a whole lot this season.
Yeah, probably won't be on the roster to start the season, but he does have a 2-way deal. He'll likely be in Austin for a good chunk of time to get the occasional call up back and forth. Hey, we're looking at the Spurs roster. Who's on the bubble? Who's on the roster? Right here on Locked On Spurs with Rudy Campos. When we get back, we're going to continue that chat, look at some other names that could be on the bubble or heading to Austin, or maybe not even all in San Antonio. And we'll do all that and a lot more when we get back right here on Locked On Spurs.
Hello there.
Hey, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times, you heard that right, 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. A lot of money. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Check it out. That's $200 you can spend betting from everything from the money line to the over and under to who you think is going to be the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. I mean, what more can you want? Well, there's no better place to bet on MLB than on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. I go there. I love they're looking at their NBA futures, their projections on the Spurs and Wemby. It's all there. You got to go to FanDuel right now. Sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOnNBA and get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOnNBA. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball.
Hello there.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League. Ask him how much he will part with that cap that everybody wants. Is there a price tag on that, Rudy? Is there a price?
You know what? Everyone's got a price, man. There's definitely a price.
I bet you're
shoot me a DM. Shoot me a DM and we'll talk on price.
All right, we're looking at the roster. Who's here? Who's not here? Who's in Austin? Who's on the bubble? So let's continue that chat right here. Let's start off with, I think he's done. Kem Birch, didn't play at all last season once he made it to once the trade was done. Was just on the IR list forever. And I really haven't seen anything out of him. I wouldn't be surprised if the Spurs waive him, considering too, he's listed as a center forward, and the Spurs now have plenty of bigs as we speak. So I think Kem Birch is probably gone.
Yeah, the thing with Kem Birch, and this is what I kind of went back and forth, was it was between either him or Charles Bassey getting cut. But when you look at it, I think Bassey probably brings a lot more to the Spurs organization as far as being a big man. You're going to have to get rid of one of them. Birch is probably the guy. Reason being, the biggest factor is you'll be cutting $6+ million off of the contract salary cap, where Bassey is only, I think, at 2.6. So you're going to be saving a lot of money by cutting Kem Birch. I think he's going to be the guy, or one of the guys that you're going to see being cut, and not even in Austin, just completely gone from the organization.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. What's the best thing to say about availability is being available, and he hasn't been available from the Spurs since in that deal last season. So he's probably going to be one of the odd men out. You mentioned Charles Bassey, for sure going to be on the roster. The Spurs awarded him that contract late last season from San Antonio, local kid. He'll likely stick on the roster as well. And you're going to need him too. That bouncy big, a guy who can back up Zach, back up Wemby, whatnot. I really like what I saw out of him before he got hurt last season. Another guy that could possibly be on the roster here, Devontae Graham. Interesting. Guy can score. He can heat up in a second. Not too much his defense, though. But, he's interesting. I think he might be on the bubble. What do you think?
So Devontae Graham is kind of one of those guys where you're looking at, okay, is he on the bubble? Is he not? Look at the overall roster. He is pretty much, the guy behind Cameron Payne. So if the Spurs are for sure, in my opinion, going to keep Cameron Payne, Devontae Graham is one of those guys that you might see get traded, moved, or possibly cut. But if they have any sense and they have any feeling that they may not keep Cameron Payne, it's a great idea to keep Devontae Graham, because that is your third point guard. If not, you're going to have to look at guys like probably Malachi Branham to run the point, which he did at the end of last season. Right. Maybe even have Devin play point, Jeremy Sohan play point. But I think Devontae is probably one of those guys that is on the bubble. I think they just got to see what they're going to do first with Cameron Payne. Is he going to stick with the Spurs? Talked to a couple of people that that kind of follow the Spurs and do a little bit with them, and they have a really good feeling that Payne will be a part of the organization the entire year.
Yeah, Payne definitely is the front runner right now to be either the starter or backing up Trey Jones. So that kind of puts Devontae Graham in this kind of gray area right now. He's not going to go to the G League, that's for sure.
No,
he could be a situation where they buy him out, they waive him, maybe the trade deadline, something, or he's on the IR. One of these guys is going to be IR. There's only so much spaces you can put players on. So, but I like Devontae Graham. Instant offense. We saw what he can do last year. Hit the outside shots, really just cook offensively, but defensively, kind of lacks. So he's one of the guys that I'm going to be looking at that could possibly be on the bubble. Let's get into some more like pieces that might be here as well, or probably gone too, depending on how things shake out. Let's start off with Cedi Osman. Spurs have been chasing this guy for years. They finally got him, but why does it feel like he could be either packaged or perhaps waived at the All-Star break?
With Cedi Osman as well as Reggie Bullock combined, I think I've said it before, these are the kind of guys that when you've seen the Spurs win titles, these are the kind of guys that have been on those rosters,
Right.
Guys that can contribute, guys that can come in and just, give your team a good spell, give them some pretty good offense. And Osman, I think, sticks around with the Spurs only because of the height and the shooting. I mean, they're going to need some bigs. They're going to need some outside shooters. You have, like I said, Sohan needs to improve his jump shot.
Right.
Victor's going to take a little bit of time to actually, get comfortable with the NBA game. You're going to need another big man. Zach Collins has proven he really can't be an outside shooter, whereas Cedi Osman is actually a really good shooter from the perimeter. So I think you're going to see him stick around. But again, he's one of those guys that come trade deadline time, if the Spurs are not right there in the playoff mix or in the play-in bubble mix, you're going to have a lot of teams coming for an Osman, for a Bullock, maybe even a Cameron Payne. So that's where we're going to kind of see who stays on the roster the entire year. For me, Osman, I think, is one of those guys that stays with the Spurs the entire year.
Yeah, I think this whole conversation we're having about Osman could apply also to guys like Reggie Bullock you brought up. Even to a certain degree, Campaign. But Reggie Bullock too. I like him. I like the grittiness he brings. The toughness, the veteran presence. Not to say anything to knock on Cedi Osman or whoever else we think might be on the bubble, but I think Bullock probably stays on long. But looking at a lot of players like Osman and Bullock and Graham that are flippable, should the Spurs want to make a deal. I think gone are the days where the Spurs don't do anything. Brian Wright is showing that he's making deals, he's making trades. These are the exact type of players, these veteran players that can help a playoff team, that they know they're penciled in, that need a little bit of a push, a little bit of a boost. And it goes to what you're saying, if the Spurs think like perhaps or probably like iffy about playoffs, play in, flip these guys. Hell, even if they are, on the bubble for a play-in or playoffs, still flip them if you can. We're not out of the woods yet for a rebuild. This still is a rebuild, not giant neon underscored bold type letter rebuild, but the bold face is gone, the capital letters are gone, the underline's gone, but the word rebuild is still there. So I think that's where you see your Osmans, your Grahams, your Bullocks, those guys that could be flippable as well. But look, hey, they stick on for the whole season, like you mentioned, like Campaign. Great for the development of this young kid. One guy we did not mention before we hit the break here was Sidy Cissoko, likely Austin bound too, right?
100%, man. So this is going to be Austin bound. And that's not even a knock on him. Great summer league, played really good, in Vegas. And honestly, he's probably going to be, and I'm going out on a limb here, but if his development continues, I've heard some NBA players mention to me that you're talking possibly Kawhi Leonard type of player on both ends of the ball. So there's a lot of potential for him, but it's going to be a few years before he can actually develop fully. I think that's a little bit far-fetched right now, but I do see it. I do see it in the summer league, and I saw how he played. So Soku is definitely a guy that's going to be around the Spurs for a long time, and I expect him to start in Austin. Honestly, Jeff, I think he's one of those guys where when we saw guys like Keldon and them in Austin dominate, I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to dominate in Austin and probably get a call up pretty quick.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's going to be playing among kids eventually, where the Spurs are going to be forced to say, okay, we got to just live with him because he's wasting his talents in Austin. Might as well just bring him to the San Antonio roster. That's likely going to happen. So I got him penciled in to start in the G League, but come towards like maybe the first third of the season is done. Really push for a San Antonio roster. And again, that'll depend how Blake Wesley's looking like. How's Champagne looking like. I think that's where we'll probably see it as to one other guy that we haven't really spoken about and we haven't heard anything is Dom Barlow. What do you think was going on with him? Great talent, but he looks like he's still raw.
Very, very raw player. And, Dominic Barlow coming out, I believe it was Ignite.
Yeah.
He showed what he can do in the summer, and he deserves a contract. And I think he's going to get the second two-way contract with the Spurs. He's going to be that second guy that gets the second one. But I think after this season, you're going to see him on the active roster. It pains me to see that he's not going to be a part of it. He works really hard. But you know what? The way that he's playing, if he continues this way next season, it's going to make guys like Zach Collins and certain guys just expendable, because he's going to be able to come onto the roster, get those rotational minutes, play alongside of these guys. I mean, you saw he played really well right next to Victor. So it shows that he is a type of player that the Spurs can develop. One more year in the oven, and I guarantee you Barlow is going to be a common name in the NBA.
He also showed in the summer league a mid-range game, which was very impressive. He was knocking down mid-range shots. I thought maybe his shooting coach was DeMar DeRozan. Just really reliable. And I was like, whoa, Dom, where did this come from? Athletic, young, springy, bouncy. Really was attacking that rim, really aggressive. I like what I'm seeing out of Dom Barlow, but I think he still needs seasoning. So likely to be in San Antonio. But yeah, as you can tell, there's a lot of players still that are up in the air, whether they're on the roster or out in the G League or probably not on the team at all. Let us know what you think. Let Rudy know on Twitter at Sweep the League. Let me know on Twitter at Jeff G Spurs Zone. When we get back, what's with all the Wemby naysayers? There's a common thread among those that are kind of casting doubt on him. We're going to ask why. Who are those individuals that are throwing shade on Wemby right here on Locked On Spurs? As always, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. You guys are the everydayers. Tomorrow's show, likely more Wemby talk, more Spurs talk right here on Locked On Spurs. Now, I was going to let Rudy go, but I want him to stay on for a bit, because we're going to be talking about Mudslingers. You love Mudslingers, don't you, Rudy?
I have, and I've actually I went today, as a matter of fact, over the weekend. I went. So yeah, it's
what did you get?
Just my original coffee, man. Just a regular coffee. I'm not a big, drink kind of guy, but my wife actually got the Alien, and she loved it. Again, she keeps getting it.
Look at that right there. First-hand testimony about Mudslingers. All right, let's give Rudy a break here. You definitely want to talk, or at least go to Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee, a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs. So if you stayed up late last night, you need a nice boost to your day, or you got to get through your day, they have drinks for everybody over at Mudslingers. They're located in the Stone Oak area out in San Antonio. So they're made just for the busy people like yourself, or again, people just want to chill out. So if you're in the mood for a cold brew, a latte, a regular coffee, as Rudy just talked about, they got drinks for every taste. Over 300 5-star reviews, cannot be wrong. They have a wide selection of dairy alternatives. They have caffeine-free drinks for those who just want to take it easy. And if you're new to coffee, try their signature drink, which is called the Mudslinger. Basically, it's a delicious combination of espresso, steamed milk, caramel, and dark chocolate. Really, really good. You need to get your heart pumping, like Rudy's wife apparently did. I guess something must have happened. They needed a good boost. Try the Alien. It's a full can of Red Bull plus kiwi and apple. So it's really, really delicious. And also check out the Red Bull Infused Lightning Bolt series. I recommend strawberry. Get the strawberry. Look, Mudslingers is becoming so popular in San Antonio. Be a part of that. Go get yourself a drink. They even got donuts. They got mini donuts there. You cannot miss whenever you go to Mudslingers. So, and if you're not big on caffeine, they have the OG OJ. So for those of y'all who remember the original Orange Julius, well, they recreated it at Mudslingers. Try it out. That is a big, big hit. Everybody gets that. Just ask for the OG OJ. So they're located at 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. That's between 281 and 1604. Follow them on TikTok, Twitter, Threads, Facebook. I mean, pick a platform. They are everywhere at Mudslinger STX. Life is too short for bland coffee. Let's go ahead and bring him back. He is Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Probably was chugging on one of his alien drinks that he has, probably still, to get him through the last segment.
Well, and I'm not even a big, like I said, I'm just a regular coffee guy. But my wife made mention of the Malibu macchiato drink that they've got coming
Oh
out.
yeah.
So I
That
think,
Barbie thing, right?
yeah, so I think she
Yeah.
wants to try that. So I might have to take a swig of that when she gets it.
Over the whole Barbie craze recently, they sold out of it
Right.
like
Yeah,
on Saturday. Yeah.
I
And they
remember
had to
seeing that.
restock. Yeah. They had to restock it on Sunday. So who knows? Maybe they'll last long, after the movie fades out. But let's talk about Wembanyama.
Mhm,
There's a lot of naysayers that are slowly popping up.
mhm.
Some that are saying, put the brakes on him. What's all this hype? He ain't all that. And we're seeing a common thread, and it's majority, not all, but majority of it is coming from the older players, those that have retired now. Your Tim Hardaway's, he recently was on the Carton show on Fox Sports talking about how Wemby is not all that Bol is better than him. Recently you had Kendrick Perkins on another outlet or something. Forgive me, I don't recall right now, but again, casting doubt, saying it's too much hype. He's not going to be all that. The point here, Rudy, is that it's a lot of the older players, a lot of those that have been there, done that. Why do you
Yeah.
think they're being vocal about casting some, at least being naysayers about Wemby?
100% reason being is that they've never seen Wemby play. They don't follow the international game.
Yeah.
LeBron was called generational talent because he played in Akron, Ohio. I mean, he was on ESPN, and all these other platforms before he made it to the NBA. You get into, NCAA basketball, shows you these players before they come in. Go back to when Luka was drafted. Nobody really heard about Luka Doncic unless you followed
Right.
the international game, or you were Fran Fraschilla for ESPN, who knew all the international guys. They've even seen guys coming in with the hype, like a Darko Milicic, who was a second pick in the draft, and he turned out to be a bust. So the international style is, it's kind of like a hit or miss type thing. It takes guys like years, like Giannis Antetokounmpo, to develop. Nikola Jokic was another one that it took a little while to develop. Then you have guys like Manu Ginobili, second round pick. I mean,
Right.
again, people weren't calling him generational, but when he got to the league, he made it happen. So I think you've seen a lot of these older NBA guys say, not necessarily disrespecting, but it's kind of like what you've always said. Let's pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's let him get into the league. We saw half and half of summer. We saw a bad half.
Yes.
We saw a good half. So
Mhm.
we don't really know the type of player he's going to be. And you know what? If Victor takes 2 years to really get into
Sure.
shape and really do it, by all means, I mean, you're guaranteed 4 years of Victor Wembanyama in San Antonio because of a rookie contract. So
Yeah.
you're going to see a lot of players really just not take him serious. And when they say generational talent, as an old NBA guy, as a current NBA player, that is a slap to the face, because you're working your
Yeah.
ass off to be in this league, and this guy's coming in and getting this kind of
Doing all
love
the hype.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to see a lot, but you got guys like LeBron and Giannis that are saying this guy's going to be a really wreak havoc on the league. Could he? We don't know yet. It's just a wait and see type of thing.
Yeah, for me, I think that one of the common things is old ways, like old habits die hard.
Mhm.
They're used to the old ways of the NBA. Look at Hardaway. He played back, when hand checking was allowed and
Yeah.
bigs were bigs, and they plotted in the paint and knocked you on your butt if you dared to drive in. Wemby plays majority of face-up game, perimeter game, likes to drive, take
Mhm.
people off the dribble. You're right. These older players haven't seen a guy like him before, and and their experience in facing guys that are that height or taller have usually been, for the most part, non-existent.
Mhm.
Sure, there was Yao Ming, for a while, he was pretty good, really, really good until his physical issues popped up. But you have guys like, Manute Bol, didn't, was kind of, he was like a novelty. That's what
Yeah.
it was. He was like a
Yeah.
novelty. He hit the occasional three and everybody got all crazy, but it really didn't make that impact. Guys like, there were very few. Rick Smits was one of those very few 7'2" or higher
I
guys.
think it was 7'4". Yeah.
He was 7'4" that really showed out, but for the most part, they were just non-existent.
Mhm.
Sean Bradley's another one. He kind of came in with hype. Remember that?
Yeah.
And
I'd be
then
right.
he didn't really pan out. So they're used to experiencing that type of 7'3" or a taller player come in and not make much. Greg Oden, another one, a lot of hype and then fell flat on his face due to injuries.
Yeah.
So you can appreciate where they're coming from, but at the same time, they also have to pump the brakes on them pumping the brakes, they're kind of stuck in a rock. Look, I understand that you kind of do have to have a little bit of wait and see with Wemby, but the sample size we have in the French League and the very small sample size we have in the Vegas Summer League lends to show that he might buck that trend and be part of that rare 7'2" or taller guy that can do it all. So they were in the time where that was a rarity. Nowadays, Wemby might be the definition of what players are going to look like moving forward. The development, the route that the NBA and players are becoming. Whether it be a Giannis, now going to be likely be Wemby. So I think that's where it is. So they're just seeing something they've never seen before, and their experience about seeing a player like that have come up short. So that's probably why a lot of go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, if this is the thing that they've got to realize, if Wemby was 7 foot or 7'1", then you would hear a lot more players from Tim Hardaway back in the day, even to current players right now. They would say that this kid is the real deal, 100%. But because he's 7'3", 7'4", 7'5", with his shoes on, whatever, that's the reason why they're saying this may not be a generational talent. Why? Because if you basically shrink him down 2 feet, he's David Robinson is what he is. He's quick. He's agile. Robinson, when he came into the league, nobody really knew what you were getting. Then they finally got a glimpse of the first true big man with guard capabilities and dribbling the ball, everything like that. He couldn't shoot a jumper, from, beyond, 18 feet or something. But I mean, he had guard abilities for a 7-footer. And then you saw guys like Olajuwon start to develop a little bit more in that whole sense. So if he's a little bit shorter, you're seeing the Robinson comparisons. But because you're seeing him at 7'3", 7'4", you're seeing the Sean Bradley comparisons. You're seeing the Bol type of comparisons. These guys never made it in the league. But again, it's a wait and see type of game. I will be real with you. I think you're going to hear more bust talk at the beginning of the season.
I think so too. Yeah.
And it's going to be from a lot of the players in the league. It's going to hear from a lot of the fans around the league. If it happens, again, it's not a complete bust. You've got to give him time to get used to the league.
Yeah, I got a kick out of Tim Hardaway already trying to compare Bol at year 4, year 5 to a teenager who hasn't even been in the NBA yet. You can't do that. That's just not fair. Like you said, wait till Wemby has his 4 or 5 years in the league, then let's compare stats, but to do it right now is not. Then he goes like, oh, well, Bol is physically stronger or better than Wemby. Well, duh. You got a 23, 24-year-old guy that's already been in the rigors of the NBA, and developed physically already, and that's a 4 or 5 year jump. Give Wemby 4 or 5 years to physically grow out, and of course, plus the training that Spurs are going to give him. Then again, we'll talk about strength and size and physical ability. But I mean, to do that right now is just unheard of. Another guy I think about, like for your Kendrick Perkins or your Tim Hardaways that they were playing during that era where bigs that big didn't really pan out often. Mark Eaton, would you consider Mark Eaton a bust? Because I thought, maybe, right? Mark Eaton was like 7'4", 7'5", wasn't he? And a beast.
Yeah, Mark Eaton is one of the best rim protectors we've ever seen in the NBA. Yeah. I mean, he led the league in block shots. I'm sorry, but Mark Eaton is basically, he did what he was supposed to do. He wasn't an offensive guy. He was never going to go out and get you 15 a night and all this stuff. He was he was mainly there to clog up the paint, get blocks, grab rebounds. And this is the plus side for Victor. If Victor only averages 10 points, 11 points, for me, where it's going to be beneficial for him is he's going to be one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. So the days of Rudy Gobert, the days of a lot of these other big guys, Miles Turner, Jaren Jackson Jr. being the dominant big guys, Victor and Chet are the new guys that are going to be the main rim protectors in the league.
Like the evolution of the player. Yeah.
And it's going to be, honestly, from what I've talked to a friend of the show, because he's been on your show too, Derek Gervin. We talked last night, actually. you're going to see Bill Russell 2.0 with Chet and Victor, if that says anything to you guys. So on the defensive end, we both agree that this is going to be massively defensive, great for the San Antonio Spurs, and even for Oklahoma City for that matter. But these two guys are going to be dominant on the defensive end for years to come.
I am drooling over, hopefully, to see a rivalry between Wemby and Chet develop. I think that will be one of the rivalries. I'm hoping it develops into that, because didn't they already kind of face off each other with Team USA and Team France a few years ago? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And I think Wemby got the best of Chet, right? Something like that.
You know what? I think it was. It might have been even. I don't remember the stats. It might have been an even matchup between them.
Yeah, it might have been a push, but I think that is probably going to be a rivalry to watch and see if that develops. But no, for sure, you can appreciate the fact that these older retired players are asking to pump the brakes a bit, because even I am to a degree. Okay, hang on. Let's just see how this kid plays out first. But at the same time, you can't just completely discount his skill set, because he's going to make an impact. Whether that's likely going to be defensively or develop offensively. You mentioned David Robinson. Remember, even the Spurs were shocked that he was able to do what he can do offensively.
Exactly.
Everybody thought that he was just going to be a defensive beast, and that was it. But when he showed that he has an offensive skill set too, that just blew everybody away. So just give it time, and Wemby will come around. Maybe not after year one, but let's wait a bit. Year 2, year 3, then we'll see exactly what's going to happen. Hey, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. What do you think about the Spurs roster? Who's on the bubble? Who's not on the bubble? Who's likely Austin bound? Let us know right here on Locked On Spurs. And you can let Rudy know on Twitter @SweepTheLeague. And also, what do you think about all these older retired players, or the ones being a little bit more vocal about Wemby and his potential in the NBA? Rudy, what is cooking at Sweep the League?
Well, Sweep the League, we're doing some old school, high school talk, man, about
nice.
See, being me, I'm the older guy on the roster for Sweep the League. I've got nothing but people that graduated in 2010 and all this other stuff. So when I start talking about, back in the day, Alanis Morissette and all them, when we talk music, and it's like, who, and I'm like, oh my God. So we're doing a lot of nostalgia talk, but also we're gearing up for Spurs talk, and we're gearing up for NFL talk. I mean, both seasons are right around the corner. So be sure to join Sweep the League. We're available where podcasts are available, Spotify, iHeartRadio, everywhere podcasts are available. Search Sweep the League. We're on there.
Exactly. Again, follow them on Twitter @SweepTheLeague. And we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. You guys are the everydayers. More Spurs talk on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Spurs. Subscribe, iTunes, Stitcher, ESPN Plus app, YouTube, so many platforms. Locked On Spurs is there for you. Again, a reminder, next week, Locked On Spurs episodes likely to be start scaling back. We're in the doldrums of the NBA offseason. It's going to get quiet up until at least till training camp. So we'll start scaling back next week. But for the week of Locked On Spurs episodes. But for Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.